As Bob said, I'm Kenneth with U.S. Department of Agriculture's Food Safety Inspection Service, and why agribusiness? Think about it. If you eat, wear clothes, or put fuel in the gas tank, it's got to do with agriculture. Who in the United States as well as the world does that not affect? I mean, that affects everybody every day. As far as me with USDA's Food Safety Inspection Service, we as consumers eat normally, on average, even 3 times a day. So you think about the significance and the impact in the scenario that Bob laid out in the transition of how transportation from source product or sources coming in on the processing side, products going back out to the consumers, how that affects everybody every day. 3 definitions I want to give you right quick, briefly, is food safety. What is food safety? Food safety is simply ensuring that a product is wholesome and not adulterated. That's just the generic, plain and simple definition for that. Basically, there are laws in the United States, and I am an investigator, and my colleague Ken Golick was at the Inspector General's office with USDA. We do investigate violations of tampering, adulteration, misbranding. So if products are being moved in commerce or being produced at a facility and transported in a manner that makes them become adulterated or misbranded, that is a violation of federal statute in addition to some state laws, depending on the state and the state program. So there are significant repercussions involved in the scenario that Bob laid out with the transportation end of it from point A to point B. That's food safety. Food security, we used to use food security as a definition in securing the nation's food supply. However, you see the UN in parentheses down there, the UN came in behind us later and adopted the term that food security means having an adequate food supply. So the agency then had to adopt a different terminology called food defense. So now USDA's Food Safety and Inspection Service is primarily responsible for food safety and food defense of the nation's food supply. Food defense is simply protecting the nation's food supply from unintentional and intentional contamination and terrorist activity. In 2005, we had the Sanitary Food Transportation Act, which basically developed a memorandum of understanding between the U.S. Department of Transportation, who you heard in the large room speaking, and the USDA's Food Safety and Inspection Service. So if a transportation safety inspector observes insanitary conditions or food that's not being transported in a manner that would cause that product to become adulterated or misbranded, the Department of Transportation is to notify us, and then we get involved in the investigation. That includes ship ports, rail cars, highway transportation as far as 18-wheelers, small-time delivery trucks, you know, your little short cargo vans that are delivering from point A to point B and that kind of thing. So there's a whole network going on behind the scenes as far as logistics is concerned related to protecting the nation's food supply. This is key here for anybody in transportation and logistics. We're talking about integrity versus security. Now, I know I gave you the definition previously about food security as an adequate food supply, but in this sense, we're still talking about securing your trailer, securing your facility, and that kind of stuff. And clockwise row, starting in the top left, is a seal. Everybody in industry uses seal. You guys in industry, Purdue, Richmond Cold Storage, Tyson, everybody's using the seal on their trailers or their containers to provide product integrity. However, that's all it provides. It's not a secure environment. And if you cycle around to the photo in the top right, you see a padlock. In today's environment, that padlock means nothing to a thief. Somebody who wants to tamper with product, steal product, obtain what you have, or consider what's inside of that container for other means, that's just a hammer away from being nothing. So as you move around, you see the more secure scenarios in the bottom right, which is the tamper-proof locks. They're harder to cut with bolt cutters. They're harder to knock off. They're harder to cut with saws or anything else. And then this is in the bottom left is a container lock. And this is a secure system that is very almost tamper-proof. So as depending on the type of business you're in and how you apply logistics and moving food products, if you're into the food transportation industry, these are some things I'd like you to consider as ways of protecting and securing the food that you're transporting, as well as providing the seal with the integrity of it. One of the big things that we see a lot is loads that are breached in transportation from point A to point B at a truck rest stop, rest area, something to that effect. Somebody's shopping for goods that they're looking at stealing or taking away from you. So what they'll do is they'll ride around behind trucks and trailers, and they'll break seals or pop locks just to see what's inside of a load. My colleague's going to talk on cargo theft in a little bit, and food is the #1 stolen commodity now. Food exceeded electronics. So it's big business in cargo theft related to food products. And ultimately, these are frequently asked questions that we normally get from industry after a load has been breached, and not necessarily stolen, but simply just breached, opened up, or if a truck driver decides that he wants to stop at a specific location and buy some personal use items and put them on the back of the trailer just as a way of him getting back and forth, and then when he gets to his point. But a lot of vendors and consignees are recognizing that seal as that seal needs to be intact, and that's what we're emphasizing to industry now. That seal needs to be intact when you receive that load. If that seal is not intact, because those locks can be taken off and on, but that seal provides the integrity. So if that seal is not intact, you need to ask questions. What happened to this load? Where did the seal come off? What happened? And you start getting background on it. So a lot of people in the industry ask these questions, and I know we'll have a question and answer session later, so if you see one of these that fits you, feel free to ask. But a lot of people are concerned, well, what happens to my load, if it was opened in transit? What happens? There are specific things that have to happen to make sure that that product is still usable for human consumption. If not, then, we got other issues. It goes in the landfill, and we'll give you some documentation related to that. What about recovered products? A lot of times we have loads that are breached or driven off and stolen or broken into, containers stolen on the way to Savannah for export, and part of the products are taken off, and the rest of the load is just left sitting on the side of the road or in a wooded area somewhere sometimes. What happens with those products? What do I need to do to protect myself as a person in the industry or a transporter? What kind of records do I need to maintain that would help you, help me being law enforcement? What would help you to help me, determine what I need to do as far as this product is concerned? And then what about insurance and salvage? A lot of people look at these loads once they're breached in transportation simply as an insurance write-off. They may get a police report and say it's insurance's problem, but there are specific things that have to come into play related to that. The Bioterrorism Act of 2003 gave FDA and USDA various authorities related to food and pharmaceuticals that made them a whole different world as far as transportation and how they're handled and how they're stored and that kind of thing. So again, just something I want you to consider as we go through the rest of the presentations. Here's my contact information here. I have business cards up front, and I have a number of pamphlets that we give out to industry, and it has components in here about the transportation leg. You can see showing seals in the back, rail and ship, stuff like that. So feel free. I've got a number of them up here. Feel free to come get one at the end, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. Thank you.